Hey, y'all, I'm Shane Sams. Thank you so much for listening to my podcast today. For those who may not know, I'm a self-employed, location-independent, family-focused entrepreneur, and I make my entire living online. That was my dream when I started my business, but this podcast is not about me. I started this podcast to help you find success too by interviewing some of the biggest authors, influencers, and entrepreneurs on the planet. My mission is to unlock their strategies and tactics that my guests use to succeed so you can go out and find your success as well. Which brings me to my guest today. His name is John Ruhlin, and he is the author of the book Giftology, and he is the creator of the Giftology System. John's system teaches people the art and science of using gifts, intentional gift giving, to help build and cement amazing relationships in your life. You know, my core business, I teach people how to start, build, and grow membership sites. I run a ton of membership sites of my own, and I'm always trying to figure out ways to make my people feel special, to make my members feel special. And gift giving really got on my radar recently because there's nothing like sending somebody a physical item of some kind to really make them like feel connected to you and to really serve them and bless them in their life too. But John has taken the giftology philosophy to the next level. He's going to show us today how we can increase our network through gift giving, how we can get more leads and referrals in our business through gift giving, how we can retain and keep our customers longer through gift giving. But not only that, he's going to show us how gift giving is critical to having happy, productive employees, and it's even valuable in our personal relationships. You know, the more digital the world becomes, the less we rely on physical gift giving. Things as simple as thank you cards, get well cards, or just I'm praying for you cards are becoming a thing of the past. But these physical items are critical to who we are as human beings and how we communicate with one another. And John has some amazing strategies that you can use to incorporate gift giving into your business and your life. This is an action-packed conversation with John Ruhlin, the author of Giftology. I know it's going to help you take your business, your relationships, and your personal life to the next level. So wherever you're listening today, grab a notebook and a pen to take some notes. Pour yourself a cup of coffee or a jar of sweet tea. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Three, two, one. John Ruhlin, what's up, man?
Hey, Shay. What's going on, brother?
God, it's family, baby. Chaos. I got strep throats over here. You got wives down over there. Kids getting food everywhere, man. It's just the way. That's just the way it all works, isn't it?
This is life, right? I mean, that's just how it's always curveballs, especially in the last 20 months or 12 months. I mean, it's been.
Dude, yeah. when your kid gets sick, like Isaac called me yesterday from school, and he had strep, and I'm like, the world ended last year. We survived that. Just go pick you up, keep rolling. Speed bump. These are speed bumps now that would have been catastrophes.
Yeah, just little hurdles. Just little hurdles.
Yeah, man. Dude, you got on my radar from a buddy of ours. Aaron Walker told me about you, and
Mr. Aaron,
Aaron, baby, and and he's like, man, you got to check this book out, Giftology, man. This is right in your wheelhouse, Shane. Yeah, he was on the. I think he was on the Greenway when he was talking to. Hey, man, I'm out on the Greenway. You got to read Giftology, Shane. You got to do this, man. I got the Voxer. And I was like, all right, man.
He's such a good dude. He's smart, man. He's built nice businesses. Yeah.
Wisdom, just oozes wisdom. That's how I always talk about him. And I think you know Grant Baldwin too, don't you? You know Grant?
I just hung out with Grant and his family about a month, maybe a little over. We've been looking down in Franklin at potentially moving. So yeah, I hung out with Grant and his family.
Grant,
we had dinner and ice cream and got the kids together, the whole 9 yards. Yeah, he's a good dude.
Grant's a great guy, but don't ever tell him I said that. Okay,
fair.
Let's keep that a secret between me and you, man. But yeah, man, I told him I was talking to you today. He was really pumped up, dude, because I do love your book. I love your work. I love what you're doing out there, and I think it's got a lot of applications for especially online business owners, membership owners, people who lead communities, and things like that. So tell me a little bit more about you and about Giftology and how you kind of what makes you write a book about giving people presents. I mean, like, right?
Well, first off, most people are like, I'm going to skip this episode because I don't care about gifts, or if they're the 5 love languages, they're like, my gifting is not gifts, so like, who cares? But whether you're a billion-dollar company or whether you're a solopreneur, like every business rises and falls on relationships, right? It's a relationship with a client, mentors, influencers, investors, advisors, affiliates, you name it. Like I spoke at Google like 5 years ago, and one of the guys raised his hand. He's like, "Hey, does this work in technology?" And I laughed nervously because it's Google. And I said, "Are there human beings here?" And he laughed. He's like, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, then it works. I don't care."
That's great. Yeah,
it's true. I mean, people forget that if you want, it's great to have 10 million followers on Instagram or TikTok or whatever, but oftentimes our business comes down to 10 people, 100 people, maybe a couple hundred at the most. It's not who has millions of followers. That's cool. But oftentimes it's like, hey, these 5 people like invested in me or mentored me, like an Aaron Walker or, a Grant, or like, yeah, hey, these are my dream 100 clients, or these are the 50 employees that stuck with me through the ups and downs. So the core of the book isn't about gifting. The core of the gift, the tangible gift, is the delivery vehicle for an emotion. And I learned that from my early mentor, Paul. I grew up not around nice gifts. I grew up on a farm milking goats every morning on 47 acres in Ohio, in the town of 417 people. So people are like, "John, maybe you just got lucky. Like why is who cares about this gifting thing?" And it's, well, I grew up poor. I didn't want to be poor. And my mentor, who blew my mind, was this rainmaking attorney, and he understood relationships. He understood how you show up for people matters. So I was 20, going to go to med school because I hated being poor. I got good grades. I was fortunate, and I was going to go be a doctor. But I was going to be a doctor to make money, not that I didn't like people. It was like, when you're poor, you just don't know. Like, you look around, you're like, doctors make money, lawyers make money. I'm going to go not be poor anymore. But Paul was my first person who really showed me that like if you show up for people, they'll remember it 30 years later. And I would see where he'd find a deal like on stupid stuff like noodles. He'd buy a semi-load, not like a box. He'd buy a semi-load.
Just dropping them off in the barn out back.
He's like, everybody at church the next Sunday, like 300 people are walking away with like a year's supply of noodles. I'm like, "Paul, why would you do that?" And he's like, "I just like making people happy." It was not tactical. It was just how he showed up for people. And I'm doing the math. I'm like, that's 40 grand. That's 40 G's like on noodles.
Yeah.
But because of it, people that he poured into a decade or 2 or 3 later would show up, and they would inherit money, or they'd inherit real estate, or they have an idea, or they'd have a connection. Who was the first person they called? It was always Paul, because they loved him, because they remembered. And so, the core of giftology stems back to what I learned 20 years ago. I looked at Paul at 60. He was 60 years old at the time. I was 20. And I was like, I want to be Paul when I'm 60. So I'm going to mimic what he's doing for the next 40 years. And I was interning with Cutco at the time. I pitched him knives, which is a weird conversation, by the way. I pitched your girlfriend's dad. If you never heard of Cutco, it's expensive. It's like the Rolex of knives.
I know I'm trying to sell you on me, but I'd also like to sell you some knives, sir.
I'd like to sell you some knives. Yeah, exactly. How weird is that? It's silly weird. But I was like, so I thought he's always buying stuff to give away because he just liked to do that. So I thought maybe he'll have mercy and buy these $100 to $200 a piece pocket knives that Cutco made, because all of his clients are into outdoors and hunting, fishing. And he changed my life forever. He's like, "John, I don't want to order 100 of the pocket knives, but I will order 100 of the paring knives." Now, these are $100 paring knives, $200 paring knives, not like the 50-cent ones from China, like a promo item. Like, this is like a lot of money. And I'm like, "Paul, why would you give a bunch of grown men CEOs, like a bunch of dudes that are like anywhere from like 25 years old to 85, a kitchen tool? That's weird." And he said, "John, the reason I have more access, referrals, deal flow, the reason I'm the most liked, trusted, and top of mind person in the community is I found out if you take care of the family, everything else takes care of itself." So for me, that was the mind-blowing moment of like, it's not about the stupid knives. It's not about the gifts. It's about being top of mind. It's about pouring into relationships. It's about showing up for people, not because you had to, but because you wanted to. And so instead of buying beer in college, I was at this Christian university investing $500 a month. That's a lot of money as a college kid.
That's a lot of money as an adult.
It can be. Yeah, it can be. I mean, it's a car payment. $500 a month as a college kid, as a 21-year-old. And I'm paying for a private liberal arts Christian university at the same time, because I didn't take out any loans. I was like, I'm going to go graduate debt free. Like, I was at least, Dave Ramsey-ish enough to know, like, you don't want to go into a bunch of college debt. So $500 a month, I was buying 2 carving sets or 2 Cutco, like 2-piece sets a month. That's how much. I didn't go very far, but I would engrave the CEO's name of like a $200 million company I'd want to get a meeting with. I'd engrave the CEO's name, wife's name, whatever else. And I put a note inside. It said, "Carve out 5 minutes for me. I promise to be worth your time." And I'd mail it off. I got the meetings. Right. I got the meetings. Wow. So I go in with my one suit I have on. I literally have a Mickey Mouse tie. I wear my glasses to look smarter. And I'm going into these meetings with these huge companies, and they're like dumbfounded because they're expecting like a 50-year-old seasoned sales executive, and I'm like a country bumpkin college kid popping in. And the CEOs are like one of them is Mr. Smith. He's like 68 years old. He's like, "Are you the John Ruhlin that sent me the knives?"
Why'd you send me knives? You don't even know what knives are yet, son.
Yeah. He's like, "Why'd you send me knives?" And he's like, "Are you here to sell me knives?" I said, "No, I'm here to help you and your 1,000 sales reps do exactly what I did to you to your top 10,000 relationships." And his jaw hit the ground again. He's like, "What? You're good. You got me. Okay, let's talk." I walked out of there with a PO for 1,000 knife sets.
Wow.
Cutco is their biggest order they'd ever seen. They thought the CFO called me thinking it was fraud. He thought I stole a credit card. He's like, "Why? Like, what are you doing with these knives? You selling them overseas?" And I'm like, "No, I'm helping these business owners think strategically, these entrepreneurs, thought leaders, whatever else, about how they build relationships to drive referrals. Everybody wants referrals. Nobody can get them consistently. I'm helping them get access. I'm helping them open doors with prospects." They're like, "We're a knife company, a $300 million knife company. We're not a referral company." I'm like, "You are now."
Yeah.
And so by the time I was a senior in college, Cutco's worked with in about 70 years, 2 million sales reps. We became their number one in the history of the company.
Wow.
By applying this process. So anyway, that's it. That's 20 years we've been perfecting it and trying it and doing crazy things in the process.
Dude, it's crazy how stuff like that does stand out because, so I had Dan Miller on my podcast, right? And Dan came on, and I had met with him and Aaron like a couple weeks. Was it after or before? I can't remember. Anyway, I talked to Dan like twice in like a 2-week period or something stupid. And all of a sudden I get this huge box at my door, right? And we open it up, and there was this like massive amount of pistachios in this box. I was like, "What is this? Did someone click the wrong button on Amazon?" And I was like, and I was like, "What is it?" There was it was one of those really nice pistachio bowls was in there. And then there was this like note, and I had said we had a throwaway moment in the conversation where for some reason we were talking about what we like to snack on. And I was like, "I love pistachios." And that dude sent me this giant box of pistachios, and this
go big or go home.
Go big or go home. I'm still eating them. It's ridiculous. And I'm like, man, like I'll never forget opening that box. And then you said about the family. Here's why I brought this up. Because Dan, we love you, and I know Dan listens. So Dan, you're awesome. But like, my wife stole that bowl. Makes me so mad. She's got that bowl now. That's her pistachio bowl. And whenever I see her cracking pistachios, I think, man, Dan Miller made my wife happy. So it's like, I'm done. I'm a Dan Miller fan for life. Like I know he's just, and he means it. He just did it for fun, man. So
I know he loves giftology. I did the same thing with him with the knives. Like, I met him, hung out with him, whatever else said. And I started sending him, I sent him a $4,000 knife set over the course of 2 years. Every quarter I'd send him different knives. And his wife, Joanne, would write me these long letters. Like, I don't know why you're doing this, but this is so nice. This is so amazing. This is, and every person that comes to their house, guess what she goes and shows them?
The knives.
The silly knives. It's become an anchor to the relationship. I didn't ask him for anything. I was a friend. He grew up in Ohio. So like people are like, "Why'd you do that?" I'm like, have a guy like Dan Miller in your corner. To hire him as a coach or a consultant for the next 10 years would cost me tens of thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars. Or maybe he wouldn't even do it. I'm like, when you can inspire somebody to want to go like advocate on your behalf and be in your corner, like the numbers, like people are like, "That's a waste of money." I'm like, "No, it's not." Like I couldn't even count it. Can't even. No, I couldn't hire. If I wanted Dan to go be a sales rep for me, if I said, "Hey Dan, I want to pay a couple $100,000, walk away from what you're doing, just sell for Giftology," he'd be like, "What? I wouldn't do that for $2 million. I got my own thing." But when you love on people, and that's what I learned from Paul, is like, it's not like most people do gifting as like a bait and switch, or, "Hey, you give me a referral, here's your gift," or, "Hey, you did a big deal, here's your gift." That's not a gift. That's a transactional relationship. But when you love on people because you want to, not because you have to, like they get inspired and excited about what you're doing and can't help but talk about you, which is worth 1,000 times more than if they were on your payroll. And that's what people don't understand is I got thousands of people, and our clients get thousands of people advocating, not because of a commission check. That's fine, but that's a transactional relationship. You stop sending the commission checks, guess what they're probably not doing?
Stop promoting.
They stop promoting.
Yeah.
But if you have the relationship, They're doing it because they want to, not because they're being paid to. And that changes everything.
I heard Aaron say something the other day too, and he was talking about this concept. And I think this would be a good question, actually, because someone's going to hear this and they're going to be cynical and they're going to say, "Oh, we were just buying gifts to meet people or know people or whatever." And I heard Aaron said something like, "Our lives, the things we do must be intentional." And I think he was talking more about like he writes down a list of people he needs to keep up with, and he makes sure that like that Tuesday on the 5th, I'm going to text these 10 people, right? He's like, my actions are intentional, but my motives are pure, right? Do you think that's the same thing here? Like how would you like go up against the cynical people and be like, no, I really want to do this, or how can I adopt this and do it in a really intentional way, but also in a really thoughtful way of, man, I just want to like bless these people.
Yeah. Well, here's what I would say. I mean, whether it's Aaron, I mean, Vaynerchuk's talked about, like, he wrote the book, Jab, 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 Right Hook. The concept was give, give, give. And then what most people do is they have expectations. It's like think about your relationship with your spouse. If you give to get, you ruin it. Now it's a manipulation. The motives were not pure. But if you pour into humans, whether you believe in a God or not, if you pour into humans, guess what we want to do as a human being? We want to reciprocate. We want to do nice things back because that's how God's wired us. We're tribal. So if you do it with the wrong intentions and do it to manipulate, you're going to get screwed. But if you it's almost like a tithe. I tell people 5 to 15% of their net profits. If you're making 100 grand, that means 5 to 15 grand is going back into relationships. Now, if you do that and immediately ask for something, it was a give to get.
Gotcha.
But if you continue to show up for somebody over and over again, the way God's wired the world, it comes back to you 10-fold, 50-fold, 100-fold. It's just how the world's wired. Proverbs talks about it. And there's other cool religious documents that talk about it's just like, it's how we are. So I think a lot of times people they mess it up by saying because profit's not a bad word. Like when I pour into people, I am hoping it comes back to me 10-fold.
But you're not expecting it to come back.
But if you expect it to come back from that specific person in a particular timeline, so many people say they want to play the long game, but most people's long game is days. The long game is decades. So if you pour into somebody and do it for 6 months, and then you're like, oh, screw them, then they see your true colors. It wasn't you were giving because you wanted to, because you made, because of the relationship. You're giving because you wanted to manipulate, you wanted to get. So the intentionality of it is huge, but it's also not woo-woo, just hold hands and sing kumbaya. Most people are running a for-profit business. What we don't understand is that we do things all the time. Like we take people out to dinner, we do marketing that doesn't always work immediately. Like if we're playing that long game mindset, we understand that you have to make deposits and investments. And even I'm not a big stock market fan, but if you want to make money at the stock market, oftentimes you have to invest for what? Decades.
Yeah.
If you try to be a day trader, you're 99.9% of people get fried being a day trader. And I think that relationships are the same way.
Yeah. I think that's also too, why that pistachio box was so awesome, because it felt so intentional. Like, he just noticed I said that I liked pistachios and sent me a bunch of pistachios. It was like such a unique, random gift, but it's like, man, he actually listened.
Was there an ask with it? Did he ask? He listened, but did he ask for a referral? Did he ask for something with it?
No, he never has.
I guess it's not.
It never has. But I've talked about the pistachios about 5 times. That's right. Like I've talked about it on air a lot. So,
So the core, what people don't understand is if you want to get referrals, you want to get access, if you want, I want people to be talking about my clients in every room around the world all the time. The only way that happens is if there's a story worth telling. You want referrals, you want access, you want people to brag on you, then you have to inspire them. And it's usually not about the thing, it's the story about the thing. It's like, the knives I sent to Dan had quotes of his and Bible verses and his name and his wife's name. That became a story worth telling, because who sends knives? Very few people. Who sends a whole entire set of knives built out over 2 years, even smaller? Who does it with a handwritten note and personalizes every freaking knife? Nobody.
Yeah.
So that becomes a story worth telling. It's not about the watch. People can go buy their own Rolex, but if you I have a client who loves Rolexes. And when he sends it out, it's like, it's got like the person's name and a Bible verse that's intentional. That's like, it's almost like speaking like belief into that person of saying like, I see what you're becoming. And now every time they look at their wrist, they're like, oh my gosh, like this person loves me, cares about me, sees me, knows me, and believes in my calling. Yeah. And so, yes, it's an expensive watch, but it doesn't have to be. Like I see people do it with other things. And so many people are like, try to be tactical and like, oh, I'm going to duplicate and do the knife thing.
I'm going to outdo the next guy. I'm going to send a big screen TV and I'm going to send this and I'm going to send that. But really, like there's a broke way to do this. You know what I'm saying? Like you can totally do this with a broke.
The handwritten note is more important than what you're sending. The handwritten note. And so people are like, oh, I can never afford it. I'm like, first off, I did it as a college kid. So that like, you're just spending money on Netflix and on beer or on stupid stuff. Like anybody can do it if they really want to. If they're an entrepreneur, like we can find money in time to do the things that are important to us. But even if you're a college kid, like a handwritten note that's thoughtful, like our letterhead is $9 sheets of stationery. Cause a handwritten note is so rare anymore. It's super rare, but to get it on a piece of steel, $9, anybody can afford $9.
Yeah.
When they get it, I write on with a Sharpie, it freaks people out. Because it's unique. It's Seth Godin's concept of being a purple cow. So it's not who spends the most money who wins. It's who is more creative and thoughtful. So many people say it's the thought that counts, and I'm like, that's BS. It's the thoughtful thought, and that's why the pistachios are awesome. It wasn't that he just sent the pistachios instead of sending like 6 ounces, like a little bag. It probably was like a pound or 2 or 5 pounds or whatever. It's a huge bag. And then there's the bowl that when the pistachios are gone.
It wasn't one bag, it was 6 bags.
Yeah, but still not that. I mean, 6 bags. Yeah, I mean, pistachios aren't that expensive. Yeah. The bowl is the tangible thing. Long after it takes you 5 years to get through the pistachios. Now you have the artifact, the bowl, that is a conversation piece. Every time you see the bowl or somebody sees the bowl, you're triggered to think about Dan, even if you don't want to be.
Yeah.
So like, I love the pistachio story. Anybody can sense pistachios, but it's not about the stupid pistachios. It was the fact that he was listening, and then he went all in on something fun to create that connection. It's just
and there was permanence to it. You know, I've actually thought about that too. Like, you know, from what you've written, and you know, seeing other people do some things like this, and I've been thinking like, man, when I do, even if it's something small, like trying to send something permanent. Like that becomes permanent, like not only permanent to remember me, but like permanent that they get to enjoy like forever. Like I was talking to a guy one time and he loved the old WWE wrestler Tatanka, who was this like Native American wrestler, and he had this undefeated streak and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And after I got off the call, I was just thinking about that. I was like, man, and I noticed in his background he had like all kind of baseball cards and all this stuff and behind him. So I'm like, oh, he really values that. It makes him happy, you know. I found a Tatanka Topps card that was autographed by Tatanka. It cost $19, and I sent that to that guy. And I'm like, here, man, I got you a new card for your shelf, you know. So like now that dude's really going to enjoy that because that's like childhood memory. But like, yeah, of course he's going to eventually, you know, be more endeared. Like to me too, you know. Do you think this works like not just from okay, so we've talked a lot about networking. Like we have a big membership. We have like hundreds of people in a membership community. Do you think this works at the customer level and also like the employee level? Like, do employees like just want a bonus or a raise, or do they love gifts? You know,
works even better.
Really?
So when somebody hires our gifting agency, 80% of the budget we help them redirect from marketing, biz dev, HR goes towards warm market. If you're going to do it for cold market, you have to add a 0 or 2 because there's no relationship. When you take a small fire that's already burning, so with a client, an employee, a partner, investor, mentor, now you pour gasoline on it, it grows fast. But you take a cold relationship that's nothing. People are like second guessing your motives. They're second guessing they're busy. They don't know you. So it's fun to talk about the whale hunting stories, the Dream 100. But for us, you know, my gifting budget this year, you know, is over $500,000. 80% of it is to people I already have a connection to. I'm not sending gifts to people I don't know because I have to spend so much more money to establish the relationship. I would much rather take the people I already have a relationship with and inspire them to do more with me, advocate more, and become a sales rep. Same with an employee. Like, yes, you can pay. Here's a great example. Nobody brags about their 401k. And as a business owner, it costs us as an employer a lot. to do that, thousands or tens of thousands of dollars per employee. Same with health insurance. Nobody's like, oh my gosh, you offer health insurance. Like that's kind of table stakes. But like for our employees, we pay to have their houses cleaned every other week. It costs us $2,500 an employee. It's the best. Like it gives us 25 grand in value or 100 grand in value. Like people love it because it's something they would never do for themselves.
Nice.
If you gave them the option, they would take the cash because they'd feel guilty about not paying for more grocery bills or debt or credit card, whatever. But when you take the decision away and say, hey, I appreciate you, I see you, I know you, like,
I want to buy you some time back with your family every other week.
Hobbies, whatever you want to do, spend time with your kids, pets, whatever. So to me, like for HR, like no question, like yes, bonuses are cool, but if you give a bonus every year at the end of the year, like those are table stakes. It becomes part of their salary. Whereas like with our employees, we'll pick times throughout the year and just say, hey, we're doing this just because, not because it's your birthday, not because it's anniversary, just because we value you as a person. And when you can find those times, like, thousands of dollars showing up on a digital thing just feels like it's just, yes, it's
just
money.
that happened basically.
Yeah. But you can add in 2 to 4 times a year where it's just like last year with our employees, we said, hey, it's stressful. Your spouse is probably stressed. All of our employees are remote, working from home. They have kids, they're homeschooling. So we started we cut a deal with IntelliBeds, like an organic mattress, and they're $5,000 mattresses, and said, hey, we want you and your spouse to sleep well for the next 20 years. We know it's stressful. This is on us.
Wow.
And people are like, $5,000, that's a lot. And I'm like, you'll hire an employee and pay him 45 to 55 grand or 85 to 95 grand. That's a $10,000 delta that you don't think anything of when you're hiring overhead. That's 10 grand every year. You take half of that and direct it towards like things that are surprise and delight. And people are like freaking out.
Yeah, man.
Because you plan for it, because you said, hey, I'm going to be intentional with this versus just offering the same perks as what everybody else does.
And I think what people forget too is, I don't know the right way to say this. Like money is so transactional. It happens every day. Like you buy stuff, you stick money in a pop machine, whatever,
Yeah.
But the way that humans download ideas and from their brains into the world is through physical objects. Like we write, we compute, we whatever, but like giving the thing is how we can convey that true idea of thank you, or that true idea of I appreciate what you've done for me, or man, you don't even know me, but you've made a difference in my life, right? And like that, handing them that thing is like, it's like how we do it. So like the gift is primal at that point, man. It just hits you in your soul.
Proverbs 18:16, a gift ushers you before kings. Like,
it's good stuff, dude.
We're as a human being, we're visual. We are like, we crave the tangible. We crave people are like, oh, I'll just give cash. I'm like, that's fine. But people don't leave. If you look at the top 4 reasons somebody leaves a company, money's like number 5.
Yeah.
It's usually, do they have opportunity to grow? Do they have autonomy? Are they appreciated? Do they feel valued?
Yeah.
Those are all like woo-woo EQ things. That's why a lot of times women are better leaders or better managers, because they get into the touchy-feely, the feminine energy balances the masculine, which there's nothing wrong with either one. But a lot of times dudes are like, would just like check the box, get him a bonus, pay him more money. That's not how human beings oftentimes
That's right.
That's not how we're connected to.
The gift hits all 4 of the top things, where the money hits somewhere eventually.
Yeah, you can't. It's not like money doesn't matter. Money does matter, but most people think it's the number 1, and it's not. It's number 5. It needs to be on the list. You need to take care of your people. Like all of those things are important. If they can't pay their bills or don't feel like they're being paid fairly.
Yeah.
But if you're trying to keep and attract top talent that you've trained and paid recruiting fees for and all this stuff, and like you're not thinking through and having a relationship plan of how you're going to pour into these people and when, and how you're going to include their spouse. Because spouses, if they're pissed about travel or overtime or work or whatever else, like we do a lot of things for people's spouses. Like, why you do the knives? And I'm like, well, like not just with employees, but in general, like anytime I can include the inner circle, what you talked about with your wife, like the assistants included in that, the chief of staff, the event planner, the pets, kids, that I call that the inner circle. If you can tap into that, whether it's HR side or client side, it's whole nother level. I mean, your wife took the bowl. Like That's a good sign, man. That's
Forever,
a good sign.
Man.
That was a great gift because forever.
She's into it.
So
good, man. Awesome stuff, man. Well, listen, man, we both got crazy things going on. Guys, this is real life going on, man. I got strep throat running around the house. He's got stuff going on. So we're going to have to wrap this one up right now, man. But tell everybody real quick where they can learn more about Giftology, learn more about what you're doing, and check you out online.
Yeah, well, I would say that if they want they can go buy the book. But before they buy the book, like our whole playbook of like the who, how frequent, all like basically our whole blueprint, they can go download at giftologysystem.com. And that literally is like a fancy spreadsheet, but it's our whole playbook of 20 years of how to think about if relationships matter, you better have a relationship plan, and it walks you through how to do that. They can follow us on Instagram, at John Ruhlin, for some tips and tricks and ideas and thoughts and just strategies on how to show up for people powerfully. But those are really the two main places.
John Ruhlin, appreciate you, man. All right, y'all. That is all the time we have for this episode of the show. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you found today's podcast valuable. If you did, could you do me a favor? Go subscribe on Apple Podcast or Spotify. And if you could, please leave me a 5-star rating and a review. I read every single review, and I cannot wait to read yours. After that, go tell a friend about the podcast and have them do the same. I'd also love to connect with you on social media. You can follow me on Twitter at Shane_Sams. Feel free to tweet me at any time. And if you want to learn more about how I became a self-employed, location-independent, family-focused online entrepreneur, and if you want to find out how you can do the same, head over to ShaneSams.com. That's ShaneSams.com, and learn all about my online business coaching community. Head over to ShaneSams.com and learn all about my community and my online business coaching program. That's all I've got, y'all. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time, remember these words I live by. Dream big. Take massive action. Be consistent. Be prolific. Be relentless. And do whatever it takes to take control of your life and change your family's future. I'll see you next time.